Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Successful CEO. My name is Z. As always, I'm here speaking to somebody amazing, and guess what? This week is absolutely no different. It's actually a really good one. We're speaking to the co-founder and principal of DXD Capital, Drew Dolan. Drew, how are you?
Hey Z, nice to meet you. Good to be on. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us. So tell me, what is DXD Capital? What does it do?
Yeah, DXD is it's kind of a hybrid of private equity, self-storage, so commercial real estate in the US, and tech. And we combine all those ideas with the goal of really being the best investor in self-storage across the US. And we're active in 20 states. We have 3 offices across the US, about 30 people. We've raised about $250 million in equity. And our goal is just to use tech, intelligence, analyze opportunities to really pick the best self-storage investments across the US.
Wow, how long have you been doing this now?
So I've been in commercial real estate for about 20 years. We founded DXD in 2020. The first half of my career, I was very broad in what I did, development-wise, and really my core competency is development, ground-up development. So I did multifamily and industrial and hotels, senior living. But when I got into storage in 2016, I really just fell in love with the asset class. I fell in love that, yes, it's an operating business, but all that matters is the location and the timing. The operations is simple, the product's a commodity. And so if you can nail the location and the timing, you will be successful. And that's where we stack lots of data, lots of analytics to look for those. And we've got a whole team that only focuses on tech tools. We've got one person that only focuses on AI, with this idea that we're going to get better. Every single thing we do, we're going to get better and faster. And the thesis is when you look at 100,000 opportunities to invest, you're going to be very picky.
I mean, going through 100,000 investments is quite an ordeal. Just the data around that, whether you've got AI or otherwise, 100,000 possibilities is hard for probably the Warren Buffetts of the world as well. And this is something that you guys have designed and built, and you curate and you manage on a regular basis.
Yeah, we've had these tools, and it's not one tool. It's really a suite of things that remove the friction from our business. And the first is, where do you find the opportunities? The cool thing about self-storage is there's lots of data available. We know where all 55,000 facilities are. 35,000 of those publish their rates online, and they're all month-to-month rates. So you can see how a market's doing, when you see those rates, as it's a supply demand, just like an airline ticket. Rates go up, demand goes up, and there's less supply. And so because there's all this data, we know who our customer is. We know the metrics that make more customers, more multifamily, more jobs, more single family. We can use that to kind of create this idea of, based on the metrics, every deal we work on, every deal we underwrite and really dig into is going to work based on the data. There's probably, a lot of times there's other problems. Can we get the right zoning? Are there restrictions on the land? Is it too expensive? But we're using data to sort this entire universe into a handful of opportunities that we know work based on that data.
Wow. To analyze that level of data is very, very impressive. And I suppose my first question to you really is, I'm going to get to the AI piece and the tech piece in a minute. But before that, as a CEO, let's talk about you for a second. What's the boldest decision you've ever made in your company that you've been like, this is the decision I need to make? And it's like, you can walk away, you've gone, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, we took a big leap to hire some very big talent, and we did it across a number of different positions. And we run our company on fees. We get development fees, asset management fees for doing things. but those fees pay the overhead. And there was a point in time about 3 years ago where it is a chicken and egg in our world. And we went out and overhired, knowing we didn't have the fees to get there, but that these people would help us get there. And, it worked out. There was a total of about 4 very strategic, very high level hires. And I think that's a tough moment because, you got to make ends meet. It's a startup company. There's not unlimited capital. Can you see where you're growing to? Because if you wait till it's all there before you hire these people, it's likely you're going to make a mistake or it's too late.
Yeah, you mentioned something at the very end there, too late. That's something that I hear a lot from senior individuals like yourself, your peers, who are always like, you have to move quick, you have to move fast. You can't sit around and wait because the window of opportunity disappears very, very quickly. And it sounds like you moved quickly, you made a decision to hire new talent and resources in to take that risk in order for it to pay off before the window closes off. So that's very, very impressive. That's very good. I mean, it comes with experience, confidence, and I imagine all that analysis that your team brings to you as well with a whole lot of data.
Yeah, it's like, do we have a good story? Are we going to raise equity? Are we going to get banks on board? Do we have the money to go out and put land under contract and get the entitlements? Do we have the conviction around these sites? In our business, I'm not really an expert in anything, but I know almost everything about development. And so, I tell our young people, it's like conducting an orchestra. My back's to the crowd. I don't know how to play the cello and I don't know how to play the violin, but I know what a good cello sounds like and I know what a bad violin sounds like. And so
I love that analogy. That's brilliant.
I'm just running at a high level, but in our world, there's no book you can read. There's no single meeting. There's no YouTube. And anybody that, join this course, I'm actually writing a book, which is kind of the antithesis to, come join this course. You can be a passive income millionaire. Sign up for this podcast. Do all these things. Get my newsletter, because those aren't shortcuts. If they are successful, it's because you got lucky. It just takes a long time. And I also tell our young people, it's about making mistakes. You learn so much more from mistakes. And most times, almost always, those mistakes aren't fatal, but you're taking that lesson and applying it somewhere in the future to something that feels like the situation you were in, which you handled, poorly or you handled well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're speaking from, a very vast amount of knowledge and experience. So guys, listen to what Drew's saying. Let's talk a little bit about AI. Everyone is talking about AI, so I have to ask the question. Within DXD Capital, are you guys currently using AI or perhaps planning to use AI? And if so, are there any sort of concerns around using artificial intelligence in its current form today?
Yeah, I think every day, almost everybody uses it to a certain extent. I mean, I just used it yesterday. I needed to create a job description, and I went and pulled 3 other similar job descriptions offline. I threw them in AI. It created something that sounded like us and was more fitting. That's kind of, to me, the lowest level. We've got one person that's dedicated really to creating tools and listening to our people in order to make things better. She's an absolute genius. She thinks like this. She dives in and solves problems. Her biggest effort is what we call a data warehouse, which is taking all of our information, because we have enormous information. We got 40 facilities and numbers and background and documents, all these things. The documentation in our world is huge, and we get updates, every day. Taking all that information and being able to sort it and get answers incredibly quickly. And it's another kind of one of these things where I don't know what the end product looks like because I've never seen it, and I'm not sure anybody really does. But we know it's powerful enough that we ought to take the risk to put the time and the money into getting it. To your comment about risks, my biggest concern is really like, where does our data go? And making sure nobody else gets our data. And so we set up ChatGPT to essentially pull information in the wider web, but keep our information shared just internally.
No, that's very smart, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, data security, cybersecurity in this day and age is a huge topic, and I feel like we can do another session on cybersecurity.
Yeah.
But it's such a big question mark in this day and age, especially with the way AI systems work, and generative AI as well, with large language models, just reading everything that everyone else has created and utilizing that. Where's the licensing? Where's the censorship? Where's the control around it? But let me change gears for a second here. Now, we've talked a lot around the technology, around the data analysis, and getting insights and understanding your users' requirements, perspectives. What about the other side of the brain, the creative thinking, the things that sparks fresh ideas? How do you encourage that in such a tech and analytical business?
One way I do it is I want our people to get out of the office. And when we're looking at a piece of real estate in Nantucket, only 3 of us have ever, I had never been to Nantucket Island off Massachusetts. A couple people had, but here we are trying to sell a product to our investors that we hadn't been to. So we all went out there, we toured it, we got a sense for it. But I want people out, seeing things, talking to people. You learn so much more in a 30-minute conversation with the neighbor of the property than you would Googling online for 6 hours. That combined with, I want our people to go to conferences. I want them to have a network outside of DXD. I want them to meet people. I want to have resources. And, that our business is relationships. And the more I can emphasize to our younger people that relationships matter and you need to go out and do this, and they matter for DXD, they matter for you personally for the long term. I still have relationships from 20 years ago when I got in that, I can call today. Had nothing to do with business, my business, but they're in real estate, and it's just invaluable, those relationships.
No, you're right. I mean, it's what you've just spoken about there is, let's take the current issues that we have with social media, use of tech, young people not being able to forge relationships, and you're actively trying to get your team, get your people, go out and see the real world, go and meet real people, make connections, build something with them, and enrich your life. So that's fantastic. I love that. So I've got one more question for you, Drew, before I let you get back on with your extremely busy day. We've got loads of viewers who are sort of in their 20s, their first jobbers, second jobbers, and they often watch some of these podcasts and they're thinking, how can I be Drew? How can I start my own DXD Capital? If you could give them a piece of advice, what advice would you give them?
I would say you've got to put yourself out there. And whether it's, if you're in an industry where you don't love it and you want to do something else, you still should go join that industry's association, because that's what creates, you joined an association, it's on your resume, it looks good. And then when you get into your ultimate career, you can join that association. You've got to put yourself out there, whether it's volunteering or associations or jumping on a board. What I've learned in my community, if you were young and you raised your hand to volunteer, you were always picked on. That, they wanted you. They wanted a young person to jump in and do things. And so when I realized that, it gave me an opportunity to go and do so many things and join an industry association, and ultimately in 5 years lead it, and then join the national board. It all started with showing up to a meeting one day, which was my second day in the office. It all started by showing up. And had I not shown up, all these other things wouldn't have happened. And it's kind of what I said earlier. If you're stuck behind a computer, if you're not Zooming, talking, meeting, using LinkedIn to connect to people, you can't expect your career to go anywhere, because it's not going to happen without you.
It's fantastic. That's really good advice, guys. Please, please, please take it. Drew, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, best way, DXD.Capital, and sign up if you want our newsletter. I write a blog every week. It's kind of a 3-4 minute blog. I love to write it because it's real estate, economics, and maybe some self-storage. But sign up for the blog and you can find us online.
Amazing. I'm going to put those links in the description, guys. So please reach out to Drew. As you can see, he is extremely impressive. Drew, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Z. Great podcast.
Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye, everyone.